We're now going to the theme of the arts, autistic talent in music, dance, visual art, poetry. And I'd like to introduce you to Lutza, who's the moderator for the entire theme of arts.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lutza, autistic ADHD psychologist and social designer. I have the pleasure of moderating the Autism in Arts theme with autistic artists.
Hi, my name is Chima, and I'm a graphic design student at a local community college. My final course requires that I complete an internship of 200 hours. However, the college requires that I secure my own placement and identify a company that will hire me. Even though I am in the abilities program and have disclosed that I am on the autism spectrum, the school did not assist me in securing an internship, and I failed my class. Thankfully, my parents heard of an organization that hires creatives on the autism spectrum, and now I am in an internship where I can complete 200 hours to succeed in my class.
I've always wanted to work in film and video production, but good work in that field has been relatively few and far between. I decided to apply for a job as a production assistant at a film shoot. At the time, I thought that production assistant meant someone who handles the equipment, which I thought sounded right up my alley. I actually landed the job, but to my surprise, my duties largely consisted of menial tasks such as helping arrange furniture, picking up trash, and watching over the catering tables and shooing away the birds. My role in the production continued for days with more menial tasks and errands to run until my parents got word of what my role was like. "Hey Darren, I just talked with someone about your situation and they're willing to help you put your skills to better use." "How will they do that, Dad?" "Well, they said they would let you use actual film equipment, unlike what you're doing on that film shoot." "That sounds great. I'll see if I can switch gears to that as soon as possible." The following weekday, I got to work at an autism organization that let me do jobs that were more to my fancy. Now, if I've learned anything about that experience, it would be that it is important to have a job where you are valued.
Hi, my name is Rachael JOANA. I illustrate children's books and make a webcomic called BirdBrain, based on my experiences on the autism spectrum and having depression. I felt misunderstood and lost for a very long time before I got diagnosed. It made it harder not knowing what accommodations I needed, why I felt so tired all the time, or why interacting with people was so challenging. If we can make it easier for girls to be diagnosed at an earlier age like we do for boys, as well as making it more accessible to get a diagnosis, I think it can make it easier for us to find the help and support we need. Through the accommodations I've been able to voice, such as working remotely, bringing an advocate to interviews, and understanding what autism is like for myself, now I'm able to do what I love doing the most, drawing and creating art. Thank you.
Sharon Mary Sakriya shares her thoughts with the world through her poems. Unsung Stanza by Sharon Mary Sakriya. Clear gurgles the water, stumbling down dawn-painted rocks. My heart wants to sing along, dance. Verses unable to escape the darkness of my stubborn throat. Running along paths, branching forever, endless maze of uncertainty. I search to raise my voice, muffled inside me, for the tone sky and earth. Every writing on the crumbling wall being my unspoken word, my unsung stanza. I get on my poem horse like a warrior, holding my pen as my sword, to make myself heard, my words to echo aloud.
Hi, my name is Giles VALEUR, also known as a Deacon. I'm an international DJ and producer focusing on drum and bass music. I think being neurodiverse has definitely helped shape my career and really take it to where it is now. But along the way, there have been a lot of barriers and things that, have gotten in the way of me succeeding purely just because of my neurodiversity. I think where improvements can be made at a base level is if we could include 20% neurodiverse teachers in schools, so that when people like myself are growing up and in our younger years, we feel supported and more keen to express ourselves creatively, knowing that we have the support in school and we don't feel like it's such a constant battle.
And now, I'm excited to hand over to Morgan, our incredible keynote.
Hello, my name is Morgan Harper Nichols. I am an artist and a poet living in Atlanta, Georgia, USA, where I'm from. And I just wanted to share a little bit about how me, as a Black autistic woman, and my journey with the transformative power of creativity. And even writing that sentence for these purposes, for me, just honestly gives me a lot of hope, because there was a long time where I didn't know or see creativity as transformative power. But as I look back on my life, I can see, oh, wait a minute, this has been something that has been there with me all along that has really helped me. And there's a lot of nuance to it. And I just wanted to share my perspective in hopes that it could just become a prompt for other people to share their perspectives as well. So a little bit of my autism journey began in 2017 when I tried to get it began when I was born, but in terms of my awareness of a possibility, it began in 2017. I was struggling with everything from small to large tasks in my life. And whether it was going to the post office to try to take a package, or it was trying to keep a job, it was very, very difficult for me. And I was getting to it. I was 27, and I was starting to think, you know what? I thought I was supposed to grow up by now. I thought this was 20 stuff. You're supposed to get better at these things. And I just wasn't getting better at even just basic things, losing passport, bills. It was just a lot of things were incredibly difficult. And I would talk to peers and I would hear that we did this, we signed up for that. And I find out it took me 3 or 4 times longer to do something than it took them. And it was just getting harder and harder the older I got, because in my early 20s, I was I'm just in my early 20s, I'm an artist. That's just me. I'm all over the place. I don't understand, I struggle. But as I got older, I was I should at least ask my doctor. At the time, I wasn't very familiar with going to therapy or anything. So I just asked my doctor. I was I think it could be possible, because my mom had said when I was a kid, I have a sister who is also neurodiverse, diagnosed with Tourette syndrome and ADHD and OCD at 9 years old. So neurological conversations weren't completely out of the picture in my family. However, my mom, every time she mentioned it to a doctor as a kid, it was just seen as that's not something to even consider for someone that looks like I do. So long story short, 2017, I asked my doctor, could you just consider maybe I could talk to someone. I didn't even say I think I'm autistic. I was I would just like to talk to someone who talks to people who think they could maybe be on the spectrum. And his response was to not even look up from the clipboard and say, no, there's no way that you even possibly consider that. That's just totally no. And just refused me. And I went out, and sadly, I believed him. For 3 years, I just took his word, and I just assumed, well, I guess I'm not growing up then. I guess I've failed, and I guess it's just my personal responsibility to get myself together. 2020, I was watching TikTok, and it was through TikTok that I saw people who were diagnosed as adults sharing their stories and sharing the things that they struggled with. And that was when it was like, okay, no, there was something there from 3 years ago. And thankfully, through TikTok, I was able to learn that, yeah, looking for someone who specializes in adults is very, very key, especially someone who looks like myself. You know, there's people who have not even thought of the idea of autistic woman, you know, that's not even something that some people have even thought about. So finding someone who did have expertise in that was huge. Took me a few tries, but I did find someone eventually. And in early 2021, at age 31, I was diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and sensory processing disorder. And since then, it's just been a journey of learning how to embrace and be more of myself. It's been very hard. I just, full transparency, I've had some, especially like friendships change. I've dealt with that now. I've dealt with work stuff change. A lot of things that I thought I was going to be able to do, and I'm just not. Big life changes, left the place in my country that I wanted to live in and had to pack up, me and my family, moved to a completely different part of the country back home because it was more affordable and more manageable to live here. And yeah, so somehow through all of that, I wrote a book called You Are Only Just Beginning. And it's a book that it's not going to be in the subtitle because me trying to be my autistic self is still very much so a journey. But everything in this book is like what childhood Morgan loved so dear. And there's a chapter on butterflies and elephants. I used to just like take the encyclopedia and just in my notebook, I would just write out everything I knew about elephants because I was just like, I just need to have this information for my personal record just in case these encyclopedias never go away. So I do feel like this book is that, and that's what I want to share. So it's still a journey, which is true for, I think, all late diagnosed people. It's very much so a journey where we're learning in real time how to even communicate our experiences. And that's just a little bit of my experience with that. So yes, this is just sort of like a why I continue to choose art amidst all of that, amidst everything I struggle with. And one, I found it to be a safe space to communicate in my own way. Even pre-diagnosis, art provided me with a safe space where I could communicate in my own way, free of judgment and misunderstanding. In a world that has a lot of rules on how to communicate, a safe space to express oneself is very important, especially to be able to do that on my own terms. And art is that for me. And for me, it's also a way of promoting nonlinear communication. I don't think in sentences. I don't think in paragraphs. I don't even think I think in words. And I think in colors and abstractions. So art is a way that lets me communicate the way I feel that I can in that very nonlinear way. Even my art itself, I put words on different lines. A lot of people think that's an aesthetic choice, but really that's just it is aesthetic, but it's also very much so not to how I actually speak. And this is the third thing why I continue to choose art is increasingly becoming more so is I want to continue to advocate for others who don't have typical paths and feel alone. I know I'm not alone in feeling like you failed at some traditional path and all the things that come as a result of that, relationships, income, like it can impact everything in somebody's life, especially if you're autistic. And I just want to see a more equitable world, more options for people like me and people who also have differences and who are autistic. And that's why I just keep trying to share all my little random things. And I hope it's something I get to continue to do. And I have some just very short examples of what that looks like visually. I love visuals. I think in colors. I think in pictures. So I try to make them quite a bit. I have a chapter in my book called Finding Your People, and it's about elephants. And what I love about elephants is just the way that they communicate vibrationally through the earth. And I just find that to be so beautiful because while I don't communicate that way, I wish I did to be awesome. I just find it very inspiring because I think sometimes like we just get so it's like, oh, English this way, at least where I live in America and in the US. And I just would love to see a world where we just more openly embrace different styles of communication, whether that's nonverbal, whether that's sign language. Like, I just want to see more of that. So I'm like searching in nature for examples, and elephants to me just really, really speak to that. I think that finding community, making space, a huge part of that is making room for different kinds of communication. And I feel like I communicate that through art. Another section is monarch butterflies. I've learned a lot from them, and I think that their migration cycle is something that has a lot that can teach us about people working together. So there's a poem here, and I'm going to kind of read it kind of fast. I know I have limited time, but it's really kind of the main point of what I've wanted to share. And I think it communicates what I feel like I try to say as an autistic person. They said, all you have to do is follow the rules on this page. And then they wrote down the rules in invisible ink. So the only way that I could learn what was on the page was to study how the rule makers think. I spent decades in the halls of their libraries, studying their idioms, crossing T's, dotting I's. I learned to lower and raise my voice at the right times and prepare a face to look them in the eye. But no matter how hard I tried, I could never see the invisible ink on this page. I just wanted to see if it held the fine print about talking too much or be yourself, but not that way. Then someone said, well, the invisible ink, all you need is a UV light. Simply hold it up to the page and then you can read everything just fine. So I went out and bought a UV light, ready to read the fine print I didn't know. And then from the corner of the room, everyone laughed and said, are you serious? The actual page was just a joke. How can't you see that we were just messing with you? The rules are things that you just know. So I backed out of the room, and I wish I could tell you I left having said something clever or made some speech, something about embracing differences and how to make room for people like me. But in reality, I left that room hiding behind the same old mask that I'm used to, the one they tell you you don't have to wear, but in reality, you do. I left that room even more mystified about how the rule makers make rules and how they think. But I also left that room deciding that when I tell my story, I will tell it in the blackest of inks. And after writing that poem and sharing it, I've been hearing from a lot of other autistic people who have experienced just feeling like they haven't quite been able to share who they are. So I'm definitely still trying. I'm on that journey. I really do feel like I'm just getting started. And I just included some art in here that just shows what that process has been like, even just trying to explore what it means to unmask in my art. I've had some milestones that I think that in terms of being able to share creatively, I've been able to work with people like Paul Mitchell and Starbucks and Hallmark to share my art, and it's been a very good thing. However, what I really want to focus on beyond sharing creatively is living creatively, because I think that for an autistic person, and I can speak especially from a late diagnosed perspective, there's so many years where we didn't get to just be and exist as ourselves. And a lot of times it's not like this aesthetic, beautiful thing. It's just us learning how to make room for someone like us in the world. So for me, I value just being able to sit, and I have a 3-year-old watching trains, or just lying in bed and watching the ceiling fan go round and round, or observing the subtle changes in the leaves on the trees outside. I think that's just as much a part of my autistic creative identity as what I put out there into the world. So what I want to leave on in this note is that my biggest hope is that for speaking about these connections between autism, through my perspective, and creativity, is to explore the possibility of art as a valid form of communication. And we each have our own way of communicating. And I want to see a world where we can explore more different avenues. And I think that the biggest takeaways I would give is, number one, continue to support autistic artists and creators. We're everywhere, a lot of times in self-published books, or even just engaging with an autistic person's social media account can make a huge difference. Embracing diversity is still very hard for me to find other Black autistic voices. So I think that just recognizing the significance of that on a regular basis is important. And then finally, just letting autistic creatives be who they want to be. And I think this is a big point. Not all autistic artists and creatives are seeking to turn what they do into a business or a larger project. Creativity is a valid form of expression, even if it doesn't get turned into a product. Creating safe space for autistic creatives to create without that constant pressure could make a huge difference. So that's just me, and that's kind of my experience. And thank you so much for listening. My name is Morgan Harper Nichols.
Wow, thank you so much, Morgan. That was an incredibly powerful kickoff. Please introduce yourself and your special contribution to your art form, Giles.
Hi, my name is Giles Flaherty. I'm a DJ and producer and a music student living in Bristol. I think my contribution to music is the joy that it brings people, when I'm performing, that, that feeling of just seeing people having a good time is like something you can't replace, that you can't put a price on that. It can't be manufactured, it's such a raw form of just pure, enjoyment and happiness. And also just like little things like getting messages from people saying, oh, I have your track on my gym playlist, like get to be a pump on, or like I listened to this one and it really did something for me. Just that feeling of getting through to people and understanding, like connecting without even saying words, just through music, I think is extremely powerful. And it pushes me to become a better creator, become more talented, take it more seriously, spend more time on it. Even, just being autistic already, I already spend like hundreds of hours on it. But when you actually see all of that pay off, it really does have quite a profound effect. Yeah.
Thank you. And Deb, what is your special contribution to your art form?
Hi, I'm Deb. I'm from West Yorkshire in the UK. I took up art just by accident, really, by chance. I was really ill. I was told by the medical professionals that I would always be ill, I would always be medicated, and I would never work again. And I felt I'd been given a terminal life sentence, which I didn't particularly want to live with. And part of being woken up in hospital was being discharged was that I had to go to psychology. And that's where I saw a leaflet, Art for Wellbeing. And I just went to this taster session. And that's the day my life changed. I suddenly felt a fire in my belly. I suddenly felt something come alive within me. And I suddenly felt I belonged. I suddenly felt, yes, I found what I need to do and where I need to go. And it's just blossomed from there. And I just use art now as my well-being tool.
Thank you so much for sharing. And
yes.
Kate, please introduce yourself and your contribution to your art.
Sure. I'm Kate McTigger. I'm a creative director and designer, and I design physical spaces, events, and experiences. In my day-to-day, I work with a lot of large brands to translate their goals and their ideas into the built environment and temporary experiences as well as events. And then in my art practice, I create both physical and digital worlds that convey sort of rich sensory landscapes and imagine new ways of being.
Fantastic. And your sites are an absolute joy to see. They are really, really sensory experiences. And Johnny, could you introduce yourself and your contribution to your art?
You bet. I want to start by warning anybody who's listening that I have some difficulty with novel speech, that basically coming up with a new sentence takes me about a half hour. So a lot of this is prepared. And frankly, I use this podcast talk show host thing as cosplay. It makes me feel safe. So I'm going to sound a little different, maybe. I'm Johnny Profane. At 70, I'm still a recovering class clown. I bring this up because there are dozens of teachers who confidently assured me I had no talent for topic sentences, much less any sketching skills, and that I would certainly never be sitting nervously on a UN panel discussing autism and art. So my special contribution is my life story, decades of crashing and burning, till a pro diagnosed me autistic at 63. That shock and the understanding, the exploration, and the relief, it unleashed a tidal wave of joy and creativity in me. And frankly, I'm still recovering. People like to hear that story, especially autistic people, and their parents. So that's kind of why I do what I do.
Thank you so much.
I'm Lauren Melissa Elsie, and I also go by Autinel on social media. And my art form revolves around visual content creation as well as creative writing. So this encompasses a lot of different areas, but generally I express myself and I share information about my autistic experiences through graphic design slides, as well as video through STEM dancing. The STEM dancing itself is not a performance art, but the creation of the video is art itself. And then I write novels for young adults that generally center neurodivergent queer experiences.
So how has your art influenced your life, Giles?
It's completely taken over, to be honest. Before, I kind of lacked a self-identity. I didn't really know who I was. I was like pretending to be other people. When I got diagnosed at 13, I didn't really know what it meant. I couldn't talk to anyone because in 2013 they didn't really have like the understanding just wasn't really there. But as soon as I found music and the stuff I really like, it just made me. I just completely transformed. I had this strong sense of belief in what the music I liked and how I planned to express it. And then seeing other people enjoying, my take on music, and because it's such a personal thing, seeing other people enjoying me at my purest form, it's really helped me get a massive self-confidence boost. And I can hold my head high knowing I'm doing the right thing and bringing joy into people's lives. Yeah.
Fantastic. And what about you, Debs? How has your art influenced your life?
Well, it not only saved it, but it's transformed it beyond anything it resembled before. Having sort of given up and thinking that my life was ending, I found out it was just beginning to start. And it's been such an incredible journey that I never expected. And I often have to pinch myself now to remember how real it is and some of the things that have happened and that I've done and places that I've been to. And it allows me to be who I am. It gave me the identity rather than all the labels. I got a load of labels when I was mid to late 30s. And then I was nearly 40 before they said, hang on a minute, we've perhaps misdiagnosed you. And perhaps you've got ADHD or autism. And there's a lot of people with mental health issues who've been misdiagnosed. So I was quite late at getting a diagnosis, and it didn't mean much to me at that point in time. I weren't doing the art then, but by using the art, by being able to express who I am, it's helped me to understand my identity and that I'm more than just all the labels that I've been given. I'm a person, I'm a valid person, and I have ideas and thoughts that are different to other people, but I can express it through my art and people understand it through my art.
It's amazing what a profound effect art can have on people's lives. How has your art influenced your life, Kate?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my art is how I translate my imagination and my experiences into something really tangible that I can use as a jumping off point for so many conversations, similar to what Morgan talked about as, a chance to sort of express how you interact with the world, the nature of your reality, and then that allows a lot of opportunities for connection and discussion. I haven't always been in the creative world. I actually started my career as an investment banker, and I was trying so hard to mold myself into what the world wanted. And I think I've learned over time that it's the unique aspects of my experience that are the most worth expressing. And so for me, building like these worlds, it's both an escape as well as this means of connection. I can create places that I wish existed, and sort of let people walk around in my imagination. And often that's a really great way to start a conversation and sort of talk about our world.
It's fantastic. What about you, Johnny? How has art influenced your life?
Uh-oh, I'm back. It saved it. I guess I probably should elaborate on that. Two things, and I'm usually pretty literal. It's an autistic thing. Some Swedish studies said the average age of lifespan for an autistic male is 53. At 70, I'm, living on borrowed time. Two things kept me alive when I hit 58. That was an awful year. One was finding my wife. She's the only human who's cherished my differences in my life. And the permission she gave me to rediscover my creativity. Without my writing, my art, my performance, and behind that, the respect of my wife, well, someone else would probably be talking to you right now, I guess. Like I said, 58 was pretty rough. Looked at differently, I'm a process, not a results-oriented kind of guy. The intense high of searching for ideas, trying out alternatives, the dopamine rush when just the right word or color splashes on the screen and snaps into place, that gets me up in the morning, every morning, whether anyone clicks on it or not.
So how does your art impact the world around you, Giles?
Yeah, I just think just the joy it brings people, and being able to connect to other people, both neurotypical or not, I can connect to them through music, and we both kind of have the same thoughts about it. So it makes me feel very included, very seen. And yeah, I think putting my stamp on the world, that's the way I can impact people and help maybe change their lives one day at a time. Even if they put my song on once when they're not feeling great, that for me is just worth $1 million. That feeling, knowing I'm impacting people, even if it's just for a second, is I think why I do it and what keeps me going. Yeah.
And how does your art impact the world around you, Debs?
Art impacts me in such an incredible way that I'm involved in lots of things that I never even dreamt of, or I never even knew existed. I'm a trustee for the National Centre for Creative Health, part of the Social Prescribing Network. I look at how I can make life better for people who are in a system that tries to medicate and therapy and clinicalize you in such a way that you feel like you don't fit in, but you also feel like you're being controlled in such a way that is harmful to your health. And I do lots of talks and go to events to give people a voice and a choice within their care, and to promote patient power, to promote people to be able to speak up for themselves. And I know not everybody wants to speak up for themselves, and that's fine, but we should be able to have that voice and that choice if we do want to. And I really advocate that people are given that voice and that choice. And I think it's so important that we start seeing people and we start noticing what they're good at, what they can do, rather than what they can't do.
That is so important, and also an important message to say that not everybody wants to express themselves, but having a choice and having an option and having the means can be incredibly empowering. And Kate, how does your art impact the world around you?
Yeah, for me, I found that a lot of the areas I explore in my art practice are really parts of the human experience that people don't have the language to express, and maybe they don't think about every day. And so when they interact with something maybe I've imagined or brought into being, they can be quite surprised at what it unlocks in them, how it makes them feel. It's sort of like this new feeling, but familiar feeling. I feel like maybe it helps them connect with their inner child, that sort of sense of play of the world around them. and that sort of raw human experience, sort of grounding you in reality through sensory interaction. So, sometimes it's textures, sometimes it's elements of nostalgia. It just really breaks people out of their day and hopefully opens a new lens and sort of makes them think a little bit differently about the world they're interacting with.
Hey, I'm a ridiculously immature artist. One moment I'm convinced I'm striking a blow for free, authentic, autistic minds everywhere. The next, nobody loves me. I think there exists a small subset of English reading autists, parents of autists, and folks who aren't sure but think they might belong to at least one of those groups. I think they share my difficulties with authority, struggles to be understood, disbelief at the surreal messes of their autistic lives. Basically crazy enough to actually enjoy stories from my life, probably giggle at my clueless mistakes. Maybe learn a little bit about their kids or, themselves. Honestly, I just kind of hope to be a gateway drug for them to, serious scholars and writers, people who know what they're talking about.
Lived experience is 100% valid source of knowledge.
As when I started, on social media and dancing, it was mostly just a thing that I was doing to express myself. And I didn't really consider that it would have this impact. But what I found is that other autistic folks, family members of autistic individuals, and just people who want to learn more have reached out to me and shared that they never really thought of stimming in the way that I stem through dancing. I've also had so many other autistic individuals tell me that they stem in that same way, and that seeing me do it has felt liberating for them, or it's made them feel like it's something that they want to be more proud of. And that to me means so much. And through my writing, through the novels, I do have some neurodivergent folks reach out to me and share that they felt seen, that they felt there was a mirror for them in my fiction. And that is the reason why I wanted to write neurodivergent young adult novels, is so that young adults could have a mirror in the books that they read. So it really makes me smile, and it's something that I'm very, very grateful to have as a part of my life.
It sounds like you're really bringing a lot of connection and ability for others to be able to express themselves and to be seen. And we've been talking a bit about some of the barriers and struggles that autistic artists experience. Deb, how might we make quality art education and resources more accessible for autistic artists?
Well, I can't speak about the rest of the world, but I know in the UK many years ago, they took creativity out of school, deeming that it wasn't as important as maths and English, and that there was more time going to be focused on maths, English and science. And we've seen a huge increase in children's mental health as a result of that. Now, I think we need to go right back to that. We need to get art back into schools, and that'll do not only one of two things by supporting people's mental health, but it will help reduce the stigma, because we're all doing it. And we're all doing it in a way that is unique to us. We're all doing it in a way that is expressive to us, in which the maths, English and sciences can't be expressive. They are what they are. They're set. You have to learn those. Whereas if you're using creativity, there's no boundaries to it. It's freedom of expression. It's finding who you are. And I know when COVID hit and there was a lot of children, the UK government started putting a lot of funding into catching people up on the maths and English that they'd missed out on. But I think that funding would have been better being focused on creativity. You can catch up with your education at any age. You can't catch up with your well-being at any age. once you're a child, if you've got bad well-being as a child, that will come into adulthood. If we can support children from a young age to be resilient and have strong mental health well-being, then we're going to get really stronger, better adults who have got better well-being, who don't draw the definitions between autism or neurodiversity.
Thank you for that insight. And Giles, in your opinion, how might we increase the visibility of autistic artists and their art forms?
I think safe space is the most important thing. Just being able to get yourself out there, knowing that everyone who sees it is either similar to you or is a supporter of, your differences and, or in this case, neurodivergence. I'm setting up an event later this year, like a kind of concert thing with only neurodiverse artists, and I think that is a great way, like just one example of how, creativity can just bring people together and create a safe space, because this has not been done before. There's no one's really taken upon themselves to promote neurodiverse talent in this way. So I think that could hopefully raise awareness and kind of give people ideas of how they could do something similar in their own field. So we're hoping it has like a domino effect and people either do the exact same thing or do it in their own way within their own field.
It's a fantastic idea to be able to collaborate and lift each other up and increase collective visibility. Sounds fantastic. And in your opinion, how might we increase the visibility of autistic artists and their art forms?
Yeah, I think having spent some time interacting with the art world, one thing is that there's a huge social demand and getting yourself in the right spaces, and that can be very difficult. And then on top of that, it's really costly, and it's not something many people can afford to do to be an artist. So when you take into account how many autistic people are unemployed, it's just, there's so many barriers out there. So I really believe you need more funding going towards autistic artists. One great way and something I've been involved in is like artist in residence programs. A lot of big organizations have developed neurodiversity goals, and a lot of times that comes through we're going to hire a bunch of autistic programmers. But actually, we're often the most creative thinkers and disruptors, and we can provide a lot of value in other ways to sort of think about the future and what can change. And then I also think we need more opportunities to showcase our work in sort of respected contexts. I think many artists through most of history have been autistic or otherwise neurodivergent. They just, didn't have that label. And for better or worse, that wasn't part of their legacy. But some of it is really just shifting the stigma in the conversation about labels, because that has always been part of, like, seeing things from our point of view has always been part of art. And so just, it's not necessarily always about creating an extra category or, adding in people. It can just be about helping people see within themselves and celebrate their differences, and how our specific skills allow us to really see society and our world from new angles, and how those voices can be so valuable. But then also we can't forget that, as these opportunities come along, they're often going to go to the most privileged among us. So thinking about equity is really important as well.
I think one of the main keys here is to recognize that autistic stories and representation of autism in art need to be centered on actually autistic people. I think that so long as autism and the experience of being autistic remains something for people to watch, to feel inspired by, or for people to watch to see a certain trope, a certain stereotype that they find entertaining or funny, then we're not going to have the true visibility, authenticity, and representation of autistic individuals in the art world. So I think that we need to begin there, that we need to recognize as a society that we are marketing autism in a very particular way for profit, and that there are actually autistic artists and creators all over the world that have so much to say, so much to share, and we are sharing it, and we deserve that stage.
And Johnny, what are your thoughts on how we might increase the visibility of autistic artists and their art forms?
They're scattered, but it's a damn fine question. Folks can like and share, critics can educate themselves and seek out all kinds of diverse artists. Can't hurt to throw an artist a few bucks in the hat. We're all starving. But honestly, I want more. All that can just be moral checkboxing, a kind of fig leaf for diversity. Makes everybody feels good, doesn't change much. I want you to come inside my world, our autistic world. Understand it, admire it, respect it. There's joy and there's horror in there. New worlds to discover. I want you to learn our language, our native language. Dare to feel what we feel. Humanity doesn't have to travel to the stars to learn from alien knowledge. We're here. When the press finally gets hip to that, we won't need to hire press agents to make us visible. And this is all important to me because if you know us, you will love us. Just take some time.
Thank you to all our panelists for your courage and vulnerability in showing how autistic art can not only enrich lives, but make it worth living as well. We've heard about how the power of different artistic expressions can create unique ways to shape thinking, process experiences from sorrow to joy, and lead to fostering meaningful connections with ourselves, others, and the world around us. So, I'm thanking all of you watching or listening today and asking you to carefully consider what you can do as an individual or organization to make sure that our light doesn't fade throughout the year once Autism Acceptance and Awareness Day is over.
Thank you so much, Lutza, for that fantastic moderation of the entire theme. Much appreciated.